Hello and welcome to the How to Exit podcast. Today I'm here with Freddy Lansky. Freddy is a serial entrepreneur with one exit and two acquisitions, and we're going to chat about the lessons and stuff he picked up from those. Man, thanks for being on the show today. You're coming in from where, like Mexico or Mexico City
Yeah,
now?
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, like the suburbs, and I moved to Mexico City about 7 years ago after just being nomadic for 5 years when I was working on my first business and freelancing. But yeah, just kind of around 30th birthday, which was about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I just got tired of moving around constantly. So I ended up with Mexico City as a home base, which is nice. It's very close to the US, but it gets all the same benefits and tax benefits, healthcare savings, et cetera, of living abroad.
It's interesting. So,
I still hope one day to get a seven-figure business with an SBA loan. Now that the market's cooling off, I think that's going to be a project for 2023. Right now, I'm just working on getting this business that's the trailing 12 is about 50 grand profit on 100K revenue. My goal is to get it to about 200K profit, sell it for maybe 800K to a million profit. And then I'll have not just one major exit, but two on my back. And I talked with a lot of investors. They said one isn't enough. They said two is the magic number. If you have two good exits from either starting a business from scratch or from buying one and you had, tripled or quadrupled the profit and the revenue, then investors are willing to talk to you. And trailing at the peak at around a little over 300K on, 1.2 million in revenue. But the last 2 years I was there, it was just stuck at about 200K net profit. And we had disagreements into why it was there. And things weren't bad by any means. We're both making 100K a year. It's great.
right.
Mine tax free, living abroad in Mexico. So, but it's still from a like ego or selling standpoint, let's say, I still had this idea that we could get it up, but at that point, I was just ready to check out. And I think that was a huge mistake. From a seller's perspective, it used to be like 2 or 3 years ago that finding a buyer for an internet business was a giant pain in the butt. It was always a buyer's market, right? So they had a lot more leverage. It was a lot more likely that they would accept an SBA loan. Now, if you try to do SBA loan to buy an internet business, they're going to laugh you out the door. Even now in 2022, as the market cooled off, they have all these funds that are just paying cash, et cetera. You could sell an internet business within 3 to 6 weeks, where it used to take 3 to 6 months, right? And so I teach people who have this very good credit to start taking advantage of these and opening and closing the cards and teaching them how to use these points to get business class flights by transferring them to airlines instead of using a portal or a statement credit, right? So you say 100,000 Amex or Chase points might only be worth $1,000 to wipe off a statement credit. But if you transfer it to certain hotels and airlines, you could get $4,000 or $5,000 in value, right? And it was going great until COVID hit. I had 30 clients in February 2020. By April 2020, I had zero. And it stayed that way until very, very recently. It was only the last few months, like early 2022, people started, because it wasn't just domestic travel. The main value of that service was long distance international travel. The rug got pulled so fast on the travel industry. I was spending about 3-4 grand a month on SEO and writers, video editors, graphics. I had a whole operation going saying, and it was great because I was also spending a few grand, making a few grand a month on the points consulting, but the points consulting got pulled under the rug. So now I'm just making a few $100s a month in advertising. And I said, okay, well, this is April 2020. I think by June 2020, they'll have this sorted out, right? Then it's like August 2020, not sorted out at all. No one's traveling international. And then I finally cut it down to basically 4 or 5 grand a month in expense to about $1,000 a month in expense. But by then it was too late. I had already lost about 40 grand in the business on false expectations that the international travel would recover much more quickly than it did. They had wanted to stay on the business at 40%, and they were supposed to be the general manager. And the biggest mistake I made is not necessarily keeping the old owner with equity. That's fine. It was letting them work in the business, right? There was just so many problems right away. I'm never going to do that again. There just seemed to be a lot of like alliances. The business had a surprising amount of freelancers, mostly, people in the Philippines, whatever. don't kid yourself if they're offering you a good multiple to partner up with you, that suddenly the day that you sign that contract, that they're suddenly going to be a different person, and then you're going to be stuck with a terrible partner. Because really, this whole deal could have ended up so much worse than it actually did. I was lucky that I managed to write up a very tight contract, to keep the peace, to manage to get them out.
The one thing I like to end the show with every time is, what can myself or the audience do to help you, man?
I don't know, sign up for my concierge service at pointspanda.com. If you have over a 700 credit score and you live in the US and you're not optimizing for these things, you're literally leaving thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars worth of hotel and airline stays on the table here. I mean, you can just basically have your vacation for free every year. And I teach people how to do that. You don't need to have an internet business that's spending $20,000 a month, even though that, of course, that helps a lot. And you don't need to be a corporate frequent flyer who's jet setting every minute. All you need to do is have a decent credit score and just follow the formula, and that's what I help people do.